You're listening to The Brian Mansell Show, streaming exclusively on Spotify and YouTube. New episodes every Monday and Friday. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Brian Mansell Show. As always, I'm your host, Brian Mansell, and I've got a podcast, or a vodcast, whatever you want to call it. To me, this is a podcast dedicated to all things that have to do with the amazing game of football. And in this case, this show is a little bit of everything for everyone, whether you're a diehard fan, a new fan trying to learn more about the game, somebody who loves the analytical side of things, as I like to call my favorite number nerds, or somebody who just loves watching film all day, love watching tape, doing breakdowns. This show has a little bit of everything for everyone. Today we got to go over a bunch of stuff that's been going on this past week in football. We got a few major stories we want to talk about. After that, the NFL schedule was released this past Thursday. We're going to talk about the top winners and losers coming out of this schedule release. Who's got the best schedule? Who's got the worst schedule? And how does that kind of shake up the way things are going to look in the NFL this season? Because the teams have a hard path, may have a harder time of winning their division as a result. There's many different factors weighing in here. So we're going to talk about a few of those things. And on top of that, give our early predictions for this 2026-2027 season. This is a big, big season ahead for many teams. And then after that, we're going to go back into the tape room. We're going to do a little breakdown on a guy who just got extended. It became the third highest paid running back in the NFL. That is Achane. We're going to talk about Achane a little bit. Why did he get the extension he did? Why does Miami see him as somebody that they have to build their future around? We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on that. And then to end the show, as always, our feel-good moment of the weekend. Spoiler alert, it is one of the schedule release videos. I'm going to show you which one was my favorite and what I love so much about it. But before we get to that part of the show, let's start off with everything that's happened this week in football. So let's go ahead and take a look at our top stories from this past week in football. Let's start with Netflix making a big announcement that the series quarterback has been extended for season 3, and they followed 4 quarterbacks this past season. Jaden Daniels of the Commanders, Cam Ward of the Titans, Baker Mayfield of the Buccaneers, and Joe Flacco of the Browns, who then went on to the Bengals. Really interesting selection of quarterbacks. Not exactly the crop you would be expecting for them if they're trying to make a big series like this, given what their first season was like. But nonetheless, this is a very interesting group that they've selected for this season. And what makes it interesting is that none of these quarterbacks made the playoffs. None of them did. All of them missed. All of them had struggles. Jaden Daniels has medical problems. Cam Ward, a rookie trying to learn his way. Baker Mayfield trying to build on past success they've had with Tampa Bay, only to fall short this past season. And then Joe Flacco going from one team to another, hoping to keep them afloat while they struggle without their franchise QB in Joe Burrow. I think it's a very unique take, a very unique selection. It's going to be worth the watch. And if you guys want, I would not mind doing a watch party of the quarterback series. I think it could actually be really fun to watch. I don't think I've ever actually sat down and watched the quarterback series myself. But for season 3, I'd be willing to watch it live on stream with all of you, just so that this way I kind of get to see what it was like. And, you know, it's always nice to get these kind of series where you get to really look into the life of these quarterbacks and these players and just see what goes through their head. What do they deal with on a daily basis? And how do they balance life with football? I mean, it's such a unique thing that I've just never really came to terms with or really understood. But it's really cool in my opinion, and I'd love to see more of that. So we're going to take a deeper look at some of that and probably do a watch party at some point when the season comes out. So look forward to that, and you guys should be too. The New York Jets are signing a veteran receiver. They're signing Tim Patrick, who just spent this past season with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Big body guy, 6'5", 210. With the Jaguars last season, has over 2,500 receiving yards in his career. He's a proven guy. He's a veteran. He's been around since I was still in school. So it's a little bit shocking that I'm a little bit surprised that he's still in the league, but he has proven himself to be reliable. And his biggest issue for as long as his career has gone on has been medical, honestly. But with Tim Patrick's situation medically, he hasn't been able to stay on the field, especially during his prime years. I think he's kind of out of his prime at this point, but medically, he's been okay for the most part, so he's worth the investment by the Jets here, at least for a 1-year deal. So we'll see what happens here with him being a Jet. And I don't expect him to get any starting reps, of course, but I do want to see him at least get some kind of involvement in the offense. We'll see if that ends up happening, but it all rests on what our guy there, Frank Reich, wants to do as the offensive coordinator. It's all in his hands. Next piece of major news, we mentioned that Urban Meyer had been in a long court case battle against the Jacksonville Jaguars ever since he was terminated by them in the middle of their season. Well, that has officially come to a conclusion. We have our result. Urban Meyer lost his grievance against the Jaguars when he was seeking more than $30 million in an unpaid salary by the team. They voided his contract and eliminated $30 million that he was supposed to make, that he believed he was owed. And this case centered basically on whether his conduct justified a firing with cause. And this ruling went in favor of Jacksonville, meaning their firing of Urban Meyer was with justified cause. Therefore, they do not have to pay him that $30 million that he believed he was owed. And he only lasted 13 games as Jaguars head coach. That was a while ago. He had 4 years left on his contract. And he's not, now Jacksonville's off the books on his salary. They don't have to worry about it. It's good, which is very good. And if you remember the Urban Meyer era of Jacksonville, honestly, I think we could all agree we don't ever want to relive that again. I mean, the Chargers video they did on him, the schedule video, that's enough to know. This guy was just very sleazy. That's the word I'm going to use. He was very sleazy. I was not a huge fan of him. There's some coaches that are meant to coach college ball and to never touch the NFL. And this is one of those guys that should have stayed in college and was in way over his head coming into the league. So I'm not feeling a type of way about this. I'm actually happy for Jacksonville. You don't pay a guy who was kicking his players. So, yeah, a guy who's assaulting his own players should not be on a team. Should not even be coaching any team of any kind. I wouldn't even let him coach in youth sports. I think I'm going to let him coach in the NFL. You kidding me? Come on. That's not okay. Now, another big story that's starting to develop here. It happened earlier today. Jacoby Brissett was not present with the team as they have begun their voluntary OTAs. Now, this isn't not major news, but it is important to note because Jacoby is holding out for more guaranteed money in his contract since he is going to start for Arizona this year. Because he's going to start, he wants to be paid more like a starter and less like a backup. And Arizona is hesitating to do so. So Brissett has been holding out a little bit. We don't know how far this will extend, but we know now that he has missed his first practice of voluntary OTAs, which they would have liked to have seen him at. So he won't get fines or any penalties now, but if they hit mandatory camps, mandatory trainings and practices, and he doesn't show up, then we're going to get into some uncharted territory here. And that's when we're really going to have an issue where they may have to start Carson Beck. And I don't think Arizona is in the position right now to want to start Carson Beck straight out the gate. So a situation to monitor if you're a football fan, just worrying about that, or if you're a Cardinal fan, just trying to figure out, like, who is your quarterback going to be this year? This is the situation you have to watch for. Legit. Just keep an eye on what's going on with Jacoby Brissett, and you'll know then who your quarterback's going to be. It's going to be muddy for a bit because this was not expected. We didn't expect Jacoby to be making a scene about this, be making a big deal about it, but I do agree with him. I think if you're going to be the starter and they've already made you the starter, they should compensate your contract as a starter. Not keep you paid at like a mid-tier teen millions, like I'm talking like between $10 to $20 million. That should not be the case. He should be making at least 20. The average of starters in this league who are veterans is higher. I mean, look at what Rodgers just got at 43 years old, who didn't have a very strong year last year. Him going back to Pittsburgh, which, yes, that is now confirmed. He's back with Pittsburgh. 1 year, $22 million, max to 25 with incentives. He's back with McCarthy. I don't want to touch on that. We've already talked about the previous 2 episodes. Let's just stick to this. A 43-year-old Aaron Rodgers just got $22 million for one season. You tell me this guy can't get $20 million for one season? Come on. Do the guy a favor, get this done. Arizona, don't be stingy. Okay, just because you want to tank and you don't want to win this year and you have no interest in putting out a winning product does not mean that you have to short your guys here. Pay them what they deserve. That's it. Pay them what they're worth. And that's that. And then finally, the other major story we want to talk about really quick. Malik Neighbors is still recovering from his second knee surgery, but he is on track to start this season. That means he is on track to play this season. No idea if he's going to start out playing or if he's going to be on the the IR to start. We don't know the full extent of his recovery. We don't know how far it's gone so far. We cannot rule out that he's going to be out the first 4 weeks. I don't expect it, but it all depends. His knee recovery process has not been very positive. It has not progressed at the rate they were hoping for. So right now it's kind of taking a little extra time. And I think for your star guy like this, you just let him work through it, let him heal up, and you should be good after that. But obviously it's about patience here. And the Giants, if they're patient, it'll work out for them. It all depends. Ownership tends to be patient. Sometimes they don't. And we got to wait and see what they decide here. And I do think, Neighbors is going to come back as a very effective, very strong receiver. He'll pick up where he left off. But it's about, the sense of urgency. You got Harbaugh in year one. What's the urgency to win and have a really good record in year one? What happens if you don't do well without Neighbors? What happens? Do they end up, not playing well? Do they do something about Harbaugh? Do they clean out the staff and start over again? What's the deal? These are real questions we're asking about the New York Giants. And again, of course, that's a year wasted of Jackson Dart on his rookie contract before he's due an extension. So you really need to make the most of the time you got right now so you can compete and become competitive again. That is the most important thing. The Giants have not been competitive since that one fluke year where Brian Dable won Coach of the Year and Daniel Jones had a resurgent career where it looked like his contract was worth it in New York, and then we all know what happened after that. So this is a year where they have a chance to build and get back there where they previously were. This is an opportunity. We'll see if they can do so, but I'm not crazy positive about this in the slightest. But that's the news about Neighbors. That's your news of the week. We have other major stories to talk about. But first, let's get to the number one story here that you see on our topic board. We want to talk about what's going on with this NFL schedule. It has officially been released. We have the NFL schedule in our hands. Finally, we got confirmation of football. I'm so excited because this is my favorite time of the year. When we get these schedules, now you can sit down and visualize, okay, what is the strategy week to week? Who are we facing? What do they present? You can start game planning right now for who you're going to face. Based off the coaching staff they have, if you've played them before, what to expect from their personnel, you now can start your game planning now that you know when you're facing them. And that's very important. So I do have a graphic I want to show really quickly. So this is every single game. As you can see, there's some color coding on the bottom. If it's in white, it's Sunday. If it is in a pink color, it means Sunday Night Football, NBC coverage. Red is Monday Night Football. Yellow is Thursday Night Football. Green means it's an international game and potentially an NFL Network game. If you see blue, it means Thanksgiving Eve game. Yes, that is a thing this year. Thanksgiving Eve is a thing this year. Thanksgiving game is in what looks to be a orange-yellow. We have Black Friday games, which is obviously in black. Week 15 on a Saturday is in like this salmon color. Christmas Day is in a lighter green or a weirder desert green. And then the week 16 and 17, where it's going to be a Saturday or Sunday game potentially, that is in purple, which means it is not decided. It is TBD. Also, you see on the bottom, select primetime game subject to change. There's other ones listed here that have like a asterisk on them. That's what that's for. First thing you get to see on this board, just so everybody's aware, because I know it's very overwhelming at first, look for your team. Let's start by looking for your team, okay? I will give you about 10 seconds to pause this and take a look at your team on this board and see where you stand. I'll give you 10. And while we're in that 10 count, I'm gonna talk to you guys about some of the games that really do stand out to me that are going to be very, very interesting. Each week, there is going to be a very, very interesting game. There's a lot of divisional stuff early, which I find interesting this year. But here's a good example right here for you. Okay, let's take a look at week 1. Week 1, you see Dallas and New York are going to be a Sunday Night Football game. Dallas and the Giants. Denver's playing Kansas City. You see that another possible rivalry game here is Green Bay is going to Minnesota. A Super Bowl rematch. We have a Super Bowl rematch in week 1 between New England and Seattle. They're going to play each other. I think the following week, the next big game that you're going to look for as we go down this board, the next big game will be like Pittsburgh, New England. Could be a big game right there. Aaron Rodgers versus Drake May. That could be huge. I think also another game to keep an eye on that could be very intriguing would be a game like the Saints and the Ravens, because the Saints are going to be a little scrappy this year. I'm not 100% saying they're going to win the division, but they're going to be a tough team. And they're going to create a lot of challenges and a lot of headaches. Got to keep an eye on that team. So New Orleans and Baltimore could be a very good game. Go through the rest here. I mean, the next one I see is Vegas and the Chargers. If the Vegas is going to start hot, then I think this could be a very entertaining game. Any divisional game is typically very, very good and always super competitive. Jacksonville, Denver, that's a huge game. Keep going up the board. Detroit's going to Buffalo. That's a big game. Week 3, we're going to get Atlanta and Green Bay, Baltimore and Dallas. The Bears and the Eagles, dude, they are cooking with this. Dallas and Baltimore is crazy. Denver's playing the Rams. Denver is playing the Rams. This is ridiculous, y'all. This is a tough schedule. Jacksonville and New England's also going to be really good. Chargers, Bills, they're absolutely cooking us up an amazing cinematic schedule early. Whoever arranged the schedule in terms of like what games to watch week to week knocked it out the park this year. Last year, a little bit on the weaker side. It's a bit of a weirder season, but this season, this is all about competition. Now that we know that there's a wide set of teams that could all be impactful in their own way, I think this is the best schedule organized that we have seen in the last 5 years. This is very, very good from the NFL. I very much like this. Now, there are a couple things to note. First off, we want to know which teams have no primetime games. That means when you look at their row up here, so like Arizona, that means they're all white with only the bye week listed. In this case, Arizona does not have a primetime game, which means they're expecting them to be so bad that nobody's going to want to watch them in the main light, which sucks, but that is a real possibility that that could happen. Cincinnati's got some games. Let's see. Cleveland does not. Wait, Cleveland has one primetime game this year against Pittsburgh in week 4. Otherwise, they have no others. Keep going through the list here. We see Green Bay, of course, is going to get some games. I think the only other team we see here next would be, the Chargers have a couple, have like 4 of them. Get down to the Vegas Raiders. The Raiders do not have a single primetime games. We have the Cardinals and the Raiders who do not have a single primetime game. Those are 2 teams. Let's see how many more we could find here. I see Miami right after them. Miami, not a single primetime game. So these are 3 teams they basically expect to be so bad that they don't want to put on primetime television. So, it's good strategy, but I kind of hate it for those teams because this is how they make their money, is getting these primetime windows. Because how in the world does Miami and Vegas get no games, but Minnesota somehow gets 5? I don't know, but that's more intriguing to me than anything else. The New York Jets also do not have a single primetime game this year. That makes 4 teams. How many more do we have here? Pittsburgh has a few primetimes. It's the Titans. The Titans do not have a single primetime game. So we have 5 teams in the NFL this year that do not have a primetime game. The Cardinals, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Raiders, and the Titans. The 5 teams, by the way, who are going to be widely considered as top 5 pick favorites, which I find very interesting that is the direction they're going here, when especially that I think the Tennessee Titans are going to be way better than advertised. I think the Titans are the one team that can go from worst to first. And because of how their division kind of shook out this offseason, I think there is potential that they can claw their way back and get in there and make a fight for a wild card spot. I think it can see it for the Jets, and I think I can see it potentially, maybe, for a team like the Raiders. Depends on how the division is. The AFC West is super competitive, always tough. I'm not bought into that yet, but just something to watch, just something to keep an eye on. So that's my 2 cents on the issue. But this is the schedule for you. 272 regular season games in total. All spread out. If you want to talk about some of the heavy hitters, let's talk about them. We've got 9 international games, the most in NFL history. They're playing games in Germany. They're playing games in London. They're playing games in Paris. They're playing games in Mexico City. They're playing games in Australia. They're playing games in Brazil. They're going to be everywhere this year. And the team who's going to have, we're going to have for, I think, the first time, we're going to have a team that plays back-to-back games in the same city. And that's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars playing back-to-back games in London. In fact, there was a window I believe I read somewhere from like weeks 4 to 16 where they're only going to be home for 3 of those games. And we could check that here. Starting in week 4, they're going to be on the road, bye. Then they're back home in Indy. So we got a 4-week window before they return back home to Everbank. But then going to Baltimore, going to Tennessee, going to New York. Then they're going to be home for the Titans. So in that span already, from weeks 4 to 12, they are home only for 2 games. And then they're going to be on the road in Chicago and then home again for Pittsburgh. Then you have to go back on the road for Houston and Dallas, get one more home game against Washington, and then you are on the road to finish the year in Indy. Unique. This is such a unique schedule that I really don't have any words for. Jacksonville is, let's see, 1. We have 1 here. We have 2. We have 3. We have 4 total home games from weeks 4 all the way to 18. From week 4 to 18, they only have 4 home games. That is it. That's what I find really unique about this. Again, it's Indy, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and Washington. Those are the 4 games that they're going to have on in their own stadium where they're actually the home team. I think it's mainly because Jacksonville's going through their renovations right now for their stadium. They're going to have to do it in the middle of the year. So because they're in this situation where they're trying to renovate the stadium, they won't have a stadium for the following season, that they kind of just want to spend as much time away from that stadium as they physically can during the season so they can get some work done during some windows where they're not active, which totally understandable. Totally understand that. But I think at some point you just create a backup plan and just be like, hey, listen, why don't we just stay in Orlando for 2 years? Let's just get it done. All right. I feel like that'd be much easier. And again, they now have a football team in Orlando right now in the UFL, who, by the way, is very good. It doesn't hurt to go ahead and go put your team in Orlando a year early and just do your games there for now and give yourself 2 years for the stadium to get ready. If you have to do that, you have to do that. Look what happened when the Chargers and the Rams both moved to LA. They had to play at the Memorial Coliseum until they literally got their stadium ready. That's what happened. Until SoFi was ready, they played in a college stadium until they were ready. And that's okay. If you have to do that, you have to do that. And I think this is an exception here. Plus, let's be honest here, everybody. Jacksonville doesn't have that large of a fan base. We all know that. So it shouldn't be that difficult for relocation. It just sucks because Jacksonville's not very close to Orlando. Orlando's actually quite far. So it kind of sucks in that regard. But it's easier to do your games in Orlando than it would be to be barely playing in Jacksonville and upsetting your fans that way because you're never home. At least if you're in Orlando, even though it's a far drive, you're still nearby. You're not across the country and barely home, barely in your state. That's what sucks about this schedule. So I feel that for Jacksonville fans, it sucks that this is the situation, but they'll figure it out. Obviously, they'll get something sorted out. And next year will be the Orlando year, so we'll see. The Orlando Jaguars next year. I got to get used to saying that. The Orlando Jaguars next season, just for 1 year, and then back to Jacksonville in 28. But otherwise, this schedule is very positive. And I have to say, I did a ranking on all 32 release videos, and I'm gonna show my favorite at the end of the episode, but they all did a pretty good job this year. They all learned their lesson. Don't touch AI for the most part. Obviously, there's one team I'm still very frustrated with what they did, which is with the AI, the Cardinals. And if you want to see more of that, you go to my TikTok, and you could check it out there. That's exactly where I posted all of my rankings and how I felt about the entire schedule as a whole and just the release videos itself. Now that we've seen the schedule, we've seen that there's 272 games here. It looks like it's going to be a competitive year, and every week is going to be must-watch football, which is amazing for entertainment purposes. But we have to ask the tough question. Who has the toughest and easiest schedules in the league this year? And there is a strength of schedule list that I would consider here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to basically go off of the eye test. I mean, if we're really going to talk about strength of schedules, we got to talk about it gets ranked in different ways most of the time off of how a team performed last season, but a team that performed well last season could perform bad this season. So there's no consistency in that. You won't know until the end of the year. So a couple teams I think are actually going to have a harder task than others. Let's start with my most obvious one, the Arizona Cardinals, who I've been just dogging on this whole episode. I have been dogging on the Cardinals all episode, and I feel so bad about it, but It's not like it's not deserved. I mean, we're looking at a Cardinals team that's going to have issues. Okay, just humor me for a moment. Humor me for a moment, okay? Let's just take a look here. Presented by SeatGeek. Of course, SeatGeek got stronger pull this year. Congrats to them. That's huge. But just take a second and just really look at what Arizona is dealing with here for a moment, okay? Arizona's starting out this year against the Chargers, then the Seahawks, then the 49ers. Then they get their first semi-break with the Giants, who are going to be a juggernaut this year. They're going to be a tough team to get out. The Lions, the Rams, the Broncos, the Cowboys, the Seahawks again, the Rams, Kansas City, Washington, who is going to be probably a weaker team, more potential for them to beat them. But Philly, the New York Jets, who I think are going to be much more competitive than people want to say. New Orleans, who's always a tough out. The Raiders, who are, yes, in a rebuild, but have a young, talented core. And then closing out the year against San Francisco. This in itself is quite literally one of the toughest schedules in the league, and I can't argue it. How many of these matchups are against teams who were in the playoffs last year? Denver was in, the Rams were in, Detroit didn't make it, but they almost got in. They were a tough beat last year. I said San Francisco was in. Seattle won the Super Bowl. The Chargers were in. The Packers were in. The Cowboys are going to be a tougher team this year. I mean, we're going through this list. This is going to be a very tough year for the Cardinals, and it's hard to see a world where they end up being successful as a result. So I think they're going to be in that conversation of having a top 3 pick strictly because their schedule is so much not in their favor, and the way it's arranged, there is no way to save them for what was due for them. This is a bad year. This is going to be a rough year. But as it is, as with every coaching staff, with every team, just so everybody's aware, because you want your team to tank does not mean your team is going to tank. Because their objective every year is, we want to win games. We want to go to the playoffs. We want to win a Super Bowl. So there is objectives for every single team. Win, win, win. There comes a point when you lose so much that you're kind of like, you know what, let's just keep losing and just hope for the best next season. But for these other guys, these guys on this staffs and the players, this is their livelihood on the line. If they don't play well, they don't get another contract. If they're underperforming, they're out the door. So it means a lot to these other people, these other players too. And so, like, when I hear people say that tanking is something that they should consider, I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Because at the end of the day, you want your team to win. Why would you argue against your team winning? That's my number one thing. It's my number one pet peeve is when people say teams should tank. You tank never. You never tank. You always work to become a better team every game. If you have a year where you're starting out 0-6, you find a way to become 11-6. You start the year 0-8, you find a way to finish 9-8. That's how this works. You won't make the playoffs, but at least you come out with a winning product and help keep your coach's job and your own jobs in the meantime. Like, people don't understand that part. Let's just tank and lose. The owners hate losing. They hate it. They despise it. At least the good owners do. So they don't tolerate it. If these guys don't perform and they tank, they're losing their jobs. And plus, guess what? The NFL comes down with the hammer and punishes you by taking away draft picks and fining you and suspending your coaches and players. So have fun with that. There's no incentive to tank here in this day and age. There's no point in it. So why try it? But yes, Arizona is one of my teams I believe has like one of the toughest schedules by far. Another team I could go off because they're just not a great team this year and they're in a rebuilding year. I could go with Miami, which I think everybody's aware it's going to be tough. I mean, look, the Bills twice, the Lions, the Packers, the Chiefs, but they get two easy matchups. The Raiders and then the Jets twice. Maybe. But I do want to give credit to one team who was actually won the division last year that's going to have a very difficult year. And that team is the Carolina Panthers. They won the division last year in the NFC South in a division that many made fun of and mocked for being so weak. But just really look at the schedule that Carolina has here, and you'll understand how difficult this year is about to get for Carolina. You're starting out the year against Chicago. Then you have a division game against Atlanta, who is going to be a rejuvenated, fresh, high-energy squad. You have the Cleveland Browns after that, which is pretty light. And then you have the Lions before your bye week. You get an early bye week. This is where things go bad. Eagles, Bucks, Packers, Broncos. 4 really tough games to start, and then you have to face another division rival in the Saints immediately, and you have to go to New Orleans for it. Then you got to follow it with another trip to Baltimore. Then you have to go back home to play Baltimore, just to play Tampa Bay again right after that, and then follow it up with a lighter matchup against the Vikings, but also the Saints after that. The Bengals, who are going to be fighting like their lives depend on it to win the North. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who know they have to make the most of this last year with Rodgers. The Seattle Seahawks in Week 17 and finishing the year with the Falcons. This is a test of how good are the Panthers truly. So they have one of the toughest schedules and the toughest among all the division winners from last season. Of all the playoff teams from last season, the Carolina Panthers have the toughest schedule this year. If they win the division again this year, it's a testament to their strength, not to how weak they were last year. Last year, by surprise to some, they made the playoffs and they won the division and unseated the Buccaneers as the kings of the South. Now they have to defend that title. And to prove it, they have to win this tough schedule. And it's not like the Bucs, the Saints, the Falcons don't have tough schedules themselves. This is a tough schedule. And it's the toughest of not only the division, but of all the division winners, all the playoff teams last year. And that's now going to lead us into which ones were technically the easiest. And I think the first one we want to talk about when we mention how easy was a schedule, I hate to bring it up, but Detroit's got a cakewalk of a schedule this year, which is insane because I think when we talk about a team like Detroit, we're not 100% locked in that, oh, this team is going to be really good or they're going to be really bad. Like, we look at this Lions team and we're immediately saying to ourselves, hey, this is a team who didn't make it last year. This is a team who struggled last year, didn't make the playoffs, couldn't win their division, actually finished towards the back end of their division. Where do they stand? And now we're going to see the schedule, and it's going to be an easier path for them, hopefully, to make their way to the playoffs. Hopefully. Because here's how they're starting. New Orleans. Then they get Buffalo, which I know is tough. But the Jets, the Panthers, the Cardinals, then a bye week in Week 6. Follow it up with, of course, you have to play the Packers twice, the Vikings twice, and the Bears twice. But you get Miami. You get the Patriots, which will be tough. You get the Buccaneers, which will be a little tough. You'll get the Falcons, who are going to be sneaky. But the Titans, the Vikings, like I said, you got 2 matchups against the Vikings, 2 against the Packers, 2 against the Bears. But of the every other team you're facing, for the most part, I think we can count on like one hand how many tough teams they're facing here. Realistically, of the playoff teams from last year, the Bills are a tough team. The Panthers will be a tough team, I think. The Packers are going to be a tough team. The Patriots are going to be a tough team. The Bucs will be a tough team. The Bears will be tough. And the Falcons will be tough. And I think the Giants could give a little bit of a fight. So, I mean, you got teams that could show some fight, but for the most part, it's teams that were really good that didn't make the playoffs that either made the playoffs or didn't last year. Of the playoff teams, the Bears are in this list. The Packers, of course. The Patriots. The Panthers. The Bills. That's your group. That's all the playoff teams from last year that they're facing. I think this is going to be a tougher schedule than it looks. But for what, compared to everything else we have seen so far, this is easy. This is easy. Because like I said, the whole league has gotten a lot more competitive this past year than it has in past seasons. I think it looks a lot more competitive, a lot more difficult. I like this schedule for the Lions to really prove themselves. I do like this a lot. So those are my toughest and easiest schedules. I don't think there's anything easier than a Lions schedule, but I don't think anybody's going to have a harder time than the Cardinals and the Panthers. That's outright true. But that does lead us into asking another important question that we want to talk about all the time because it's very important that we talk about it. You know, what does next season look like? What does this upcoming season look like now that we have a schedule? What are we thinking? Who's going to win divisions? Who's going to be a tough contender? Who's going to have the number 1 pick? Where do we kind of stand in this whole mindset of things? What are the awards going to look like? Who's going to be great? Who's going to be bad? Like, do we have a concrete answer there? And my answer is I think we do have at least one. And I'll give you my bold one now because I haven't really given a lot of time and attention to it, but I think I'm going to give that now. And here's how we're going to do it. Let's start by talking division winners. Let's start with that. Based off the schedules we have seen so far, I'm going to name off the 8 teams I think will win their divisions this year, and I will pick a couple wildcard candidates. Starting off with our first team, let's start in the AFC and NFC East. In the NFC East, I believe the Philadelphia Eagles will repeat as division champions. However, this will be their last year on top of that division because next season it'll be a much different story. Dallas and New York are going to fight for that division. I think Philly's going to slide. But this is the last year that they're going to have being the kings of the NFC East. And if they fail this year in that objective of what that goal is I have for them, that expectation I've set for them, it's going to be very bad news for them moving forward. So Philly right now is my NFC East champion. There is no debate to me right now. I think the Giants can challenge. I don't think the Giants will win it. And I think the same for Dallas. Dallas did get better, yes. But I don't see the Cowboys as a big, gigantic threat right now to what the Eagles currently have on staff. Even when if and when they move on from A.J. Brown, that doesn't change my perspective on what this team looks like and the makeup of the offense itself too. So that's very important to note that. The AFC East, this is a tough one. I've wrestled with this a little bit. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win the division once again. They're going to reclaim the division this year from the New England Patriots, and they're going to win. I think New England has done a solid job, but this whole thing going on between Vrabel and Rossini will affect the organization in terms of their focus and what they got to deal with when it comes to interacting with media. Obviously, legacy media will not be focusing very much on this, but it's the podcasters in the room. It's the local reporters. It's the social media people that are going to want to know more about this and create some extra pressure there. And yes, they'll pull credentials. They'll do whatever they got to do in those offices and in the PR room. But it doesn't change the fact that this is going to weigh on Vrabel's shoulders. It's going to be on his mind. If he can block it out, that's amazing. And I think then they could be a little bit more competitive in terms of that. And again, they do have a lot of talent. They're still very strong, but this was a little bit of a rough offseason beyond just the scandal itself. They didn't do a great job of truly establishing their offense once again. They didn't do a good job of replacing what they lost this past offseason. I'm not 100% confident in this team. I hate to say it, but I'm not. So I don't think the Patriots are going to win. I think the Buffalo Bills have a much more better product to put on the field right now, and they'll perform much better as a result. So I have the Bills winning the East in the AFC. Let's go to the North divisions now. Starting the AFC North since we started the NFC previously. AFC North, this one's a tough battle. Rodgers is back in Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's looking to rebound. Cleveland trying to climb out of the hole they've been in for the last couple of years since Watson's been on the team. And then the Ravens, who had a big fall from grace, trying to get back to the top spot. Obvious reasons, I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens. I think they could do a lot more with Jesse Minter than the Steelers are going to do with Mike McCarthy. I think the Steelers can still be a playoff team, a wild card team, but I don't see a world where they're going to beat the Baltimore Ravens unless, God forbid, there is a major injury to one of their star players. Plain and simple. I don't know if I can really argue anything otherwise. I'd love to hear your opinions on it, and if you guys want to just throw comments in on this video, go right ahead on this episode. But I'm telling you now, I don't see a world where the Steelers right now would overtake the Ravens as division champs. I say the same thing about the Bengals. I think the Bengals might finish as the worst. There is a world, I think, this year where the Cincinnati Bengals will be the worst team in the AFC North. I think that is a real possibility. Despite all the talent, despite everything they have on hand, they could still finish as the worst team in the NFL this year. Not the worst team in the NFL, but the worst team in the AFC North. It could happen. And again, that's all contingent on a lot of factors, mainly involving the offensive line more than anything else. But also, how bad is Cleveland going to be? Is Cleveland going to be really bad, or are they going to actually take a step forward? That's the question. Go to the NFC North side. This is one of the toughest divisions this year. You got the Detroiters trying to fight their way back, and after they just lost a bunch this offseason, especially on their O-line, having to rebuild their front lines for their quarterback, Jared Goff. You also have the Vikings, who just had to find a replacement for J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray, and they have to hope that with KOC as their coach, the QB whisperer can get Kyler back on track to look more like the number one pick that he was drafted as and expected to be as that number one pick to Arizona, that is. And then you have Green Bay. Green Bay, the playoff team last year led by Jordan Love, they got better. And then Chicago Bears, yes, they lost a little bit this past offseason, but led by Ben Johnson, this is a team that is looking to run the North for the next few years. And I do believe the Bears are probably going to win the division again. To me, I've said this before. If you haven't seen my social media posts about it, I truly believe the team to beat in the NFC this year is the Chicago Bears. There is not a team that has intimidated me more than this Chicago Bears team as a whole. I'm not saying the offense is terrifying. I'm not saying the defense is terrifying by itself. Together as a unit and with the coaching staff they have on hand, this is the toughest team in the NFC. They are quietly rebuilding their own dominant defense in Chicago. And then you look at the offensive side of things. Yes, they got rid of DJ Moore, but this team as a whole has done a great job in reinvesting in the line and also reloading the offense so that Caleb Williams can operate at the highest level possible for success based on what Ben Johnson wants him to do in this offense. So I think the Bears really will win this division once again. They're going to repeat, and they'll probably have the best chance, in my opinion, to go to the Super Bowl. They got the best chance. As for everybody else, it's going to be a fight between the Packers and the Lions really for wild card. I don't trust Minnesota at all. After last season, I don't know if KOC can get the best out of Murray. Usually he's been good with every other quarterback he's had, veteran options, guys who've been journeymen. He's done good with them. But in the case of J.J. McCarthy, it really did hurt the way I viewed him as a QB guru. So that's a big part of it too. So I just want to make sure that's very clear here. I love KOC. I don't know if he's going to get through this. This is going to be a tough year for him. There's a lot to prove, and there's a lot on the line. So we'll see how he does. Let's go now to the South. We'll start in the NFC South. As much as the Buccaneers fan I am, as a big fan of Tampa Bay as I am, I don't think Tampa Bay wins the division this year. I like the unit. I like a lot what they do, but as long as Todd Bowles is still coaching this team, I think this team is capped in terms of their potential and of their ceiling. So for that, I do not think the Carolina Panthers will win the division. In year one, under Kevin Stefanski, I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to win the division. I don't ever like giving any of my fellow rival teams credit. I never, ever do. But I strongly believe that the Atlanta Falcons will probably win this division this year. And I know it's bold because the number one argument back is, who's their quarterback? Who's throwing the football? Dude, if you don't understand that Tua Tagovailoa was literally being destroyed in Miami and that he finally got a coach that can work and use the most of his talents, unlike the other guy who was running him and running the team, I don't know what to say to you. I love a lot of Stefanski's work. He has a lot more experience and a lot more to like in his creativity than I see with Mike McDaniel. I think Mike McDaniel is considered to me as an overrated coordinator and a head coach. We're going to see what happens in LA with him. But I do think with Stefanski leading the way in Atlanta, I actually for the first time have hope that Atlanta is going to be good again. And with Bijan at the helm, with Drake London, with more weapons all around, with the focus on fortifying that defense, this team got so much better and so much scarier. And as long as Stefanski gets the most out of his players, this is a team that could win this division, and I think they will edge it out. It's going to be between them and Carolina this year. But I think Atlanta will pull out in the end and be the winner of the NFC South. Let's go to the other South in the American Football Conference side, the AFC. This is a year where I'm going to tell you Jacksonville's taking the step back. Jacksonville's taking the step back. I have not liked most of the moves that they have made this offseason. I've not been a huge fan of what they've lost, how they've retooled, or how Cohen has handled things. I believe that the Houston Texans are going to win the division. I think you're going to watch teams like the Colts fall flat. I think the Titans are going to be much better than advertised. And I think when you look at the Jaguars, this is a team that's going to go from first to like second or third. Third is going to be probably their floor. So that we're talking about a team that could finish about 7 wins, 6 wins, when the highest they could potentially get is if they actually do return to form like this past season. I think Jacksonville could potentially be up to 11 wins. But that's as high as I'll go. That's as high as I'll go. I don't think it'll get any better than that. And to me, 11 wins is not winning this division. I think the Texans have done enough this offseason to get themselves back into the driver's seat of the division. So I'm confident that Houston will win the AFC South. And staying in the AFC, we're going to get to our last two divisions here in the West. AFC West. This is a tough division to pick because I think the Chargers did get better in some kind of form. I do also think the Raiders have a very good thing going, but they're not ready yet to take that step. I look at a team like the Broncos who won the division. I'm super hyped for them. They didn't do a lot of work this offseason to fortify or, really drive home this team as like a major player outside of the Jalen Waddle trade to help Bo Nix. But if there's one team I think that could win this division, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. I understand what the number one thought is when you think about the Kansas City Chiefs. It's over. Mahomes had a bad year. The dynasty's dead. Dynasty's not dead, people. Dynasty's not dead. If the script is correct, I'm kidding, not the script, okay? Ignore the script for a second. Ignore the script, okay? For Kansas City, all right, we wrote them off after 1 year. They had one bad year. Everybody wrote them off. It took a long time to write them off until like week 12, week 13 to officially say, okay, Kansas City's done. It took Patrick Mahomes getting hurt for us to finally say, yeah, they're finished. Because you can never write them out. But with a healthy Mahomes, with a on-track offense, which say whatever you want about the fact they have Rice, Worthy, they're underperformers, whatever, the offense is still terrifying in terms of speed and flexibility. And they added Kenny Walker to be their lead back. They have not had a high-volume, productive running back in quite a long time. The last person I'm going to name is Kareem Hunt. Between Kareem Hunt, the first stint, obviously, to Kenny Walker, there has not been a high-volume, productive running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. Whatever you want to say about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, you want to say it about Pacheco. I don't want to hear it. At the end of the day, this is the best quality running back they have had in terms of production since Kareem's first stint. So this is going to add a new dimension to this offense that wasn't there the previous season. So there's a reason why I'm really on board with Kansas City winning this division. And the defense, yeah, they lost McDuffie. They lost Watson. I get that. But they went out and drafted Mansour Delane. They invested in the cornerback market to make sure that they have fortified their secondary in their place with guys who are supposed to be cornerstones of a team for the next 5 years. So I'm not buying out of this. I think the Chiefs are going to win this division this year. And I think you're going to watch the Broncos be competitive and fight with them like 2 years ago. But I think just like 2 years ago, the Broncos are going to fall short. Denver will make the playoffs, but they will not win the division. This is the year that Patrick Mahomes gets his revenge, resurges on a comeback, and wins the division. The Chiefs will be a very tough team to get out, but they're going to win the AFC West. And then we get to the NFC West to finish out division winners and finish out this segment. I truly do believe, in my heart, that the Seattle Seahawks will make the playoffs again. However, I do believe that the Rams are going to win the division. I think this is the year LA gets on their high horse and gets over. Finally gets one over on Seattle. And as long as they stay focused on the mission and don't get distracted, I'm talking to you, Puka, then we'll be good. I think the Rams will be good in that sense. Their defense has been super tough to beat. They just added amazing players for their secondary, so they're going to be basically insufferable to be able to have to game plan for them every week. And then the offense is still high-octane active with Puka and Devontae. We saw it last year with Devontae. He pushed his offense to a whole new level, and they did invest in the draft in another tight end who's going to be very good for them. So you put all that together, you have Kyren Williams, and you have the quarterback that won the MVP award last year in Matthew Stafford. Make all the Ty Simpson jokes you want. Make all of the jokes you want. But at the end of the day, they have the number one quarterback in the NFL who won the MVP award last year. Now, whether or not you believe he actually is number one, that's up to you. That's a judgment call. But if you win the MVP award, that means you're the number one quarterback in the NFL by definition. So respect that point and understand that this team now has one of the top defenses in the league, one of the top performing offenses in the league, and the best quarterback in the NFL. What do you do at that point? And also one of the most creative and innovative young coaching minds in the NFL in Sean McVay, who already has his own coaching tree spreading out across the league. Yeah, at that point, I don't think there's an argument. The Rams are the team to beat in the NFC West. And if you thought I was going to say Cardinals, you haven't been paying attention this whole episode. But that's my early thoughts, at least what I think the divisions could shake out to. I think if you're going to want to talk about the award side of things, MVP, I think we got to keep an eye on potentially Josh Allen or Lamar possibly going and getting the award this year. I think I'm leaning more towards Josh Allen getting his second one this year. I think that's very much in play. If there's anybody in the running back market or a skill position that I think would potentially make a run for it, it'd have to be somebody that gets a triple crown. It'd have to be like a triple crown receiver. And even then, that's not guaranteed. If there were a triple crown receiver option, I would look at guys like Jamar Chase. I would look at Jamar Chase potentially as a triple crown option. If you want to talk about the running back side of things, I don't think you can put a McCaffrey into this argument. But if Derrick Henry is able to get back to form and really capitalize, and he can make a case, and I think you can make the same argument as well for guys like James Cook, or even if Miami all of a sudden has a miracle year with Malik Willis leading the way, Devon Achane, I don't know. There's so many possibilities here for how this could shake out. You want an early Super Bowl prediction? That's funny. I'm not giving you one. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait a couple months before I give you an actual early Super Bowl prediction. This is way too early. I'm not doing that. But I will say, roster-wise, I think we got a good feeling of who could be playoff teams, who's not going to be a playoff team. I think we got a good sense of that. And that is my thoughts on what this season is potentially going to look like right now. Let's go ahead and talk about a player who I just mentioned just a second ago, Devon Achane. Now, if you don't know, Devon Achane got a 4-year extension worth $68 million, which will make him the third highest paid running back in the NFL right now. And does the guy deserve it? Yeah. But I think to really put into perspective why he got paid that much, why the Miami Dolphins are investing in him long term, we're going to have to really go into the film room and take a deep look at why, based off the film itself, this guy is getting paid $68 million over the next 4 years. Why is he getting paid like a top 3 running back when some are questioning even the validity of the fact that he got the money that he did? Did he deserve it? Did he earn it? We're going to see that for ourselves. Okay, so let's start with our first view here of what we're looking at on the tape. First up, we're going to look at this run here from Devon Achane. We're going to look at him as a runner first. So this is against the Colts here. This was earlier on in the year. It's a 15-yard game. We're going to watch Nick Cross making the tackle here. He's going to follow the left guard in order to on this run. So let's take a look and see what it looked like on this play. Let's take a look. All right, so here's the handoff. He's going up left. He's going to cut back. Look at him go up and take the contact. Now, the reason why I want to take a serious look at this is just kind of watch his vision, the way he's lined up from the end zone cam, okay? In this case, we're in the I formation, all right? We have Alec in gold here. We have behind him, that is going to be our guy, Achane. Now, what happens on this handoff? Look at the way the block is. Combo block here. One guy's going to stick here. This guard's going to get pulled and go around the left side. We have the fullback going to climb up, probably going to take out Kenny Moore. Somebody's going to take Franklin here. Here we go. Coming across body, make sure somebody's out of the way. Here they go downhill. Here's the handoff. He's reading what he's seeing. He's got no way to get through here. He's got a couple gaps to go through. Now, this vision is very important. This is why I love running backs like this, okay? See how he's planting this foot back here? He's planting that foot back here, and that means he's going to push out this way. He's going to push to the side. But because of the way his blocking is, these guys cannot see which way he's going to go. Their vision is very limited. Moore might have the only visual on where he's going to go here. But he holds it a little long, and then he digs in that left foot and pushes back to the right, and he bounces out behind everything and gets this window to go downhill. Now, that is something that a lot of running backs do struggle with. You think this is something that's super common, but it's really not. I mean, you'll see it again right here. Boom. He's going to take it. He sees this window. He's just going to follow it out. 48's got to recover. Now Cross is going to come down here to try to close it out, and he does. There's your hit. He falls forward. There's your big run, 15 yards. That's one example of just kind of like one of the type of runs that he does based off one of his major skill sets that really shows up on the tape, and that's his ability to change direction quick. He'll hold onto his gap a little long at times, which can be a couple issues here and there depending on whether he's going to be way too patient or way too trusting of who's in front of him in the situation. But either way, this is an example of perfect timing, great reads, and great trust in your men to help you get where you got to go. So I give a lot of credit here for Devon. I like this run from him. You see a lot of this pop up on tape. His vision and his anticipation and his patience all show up here on the film. All right, so let's take a look at this first play here. This next play up here is going to be against the Browns. Now, the reason why I'm pulling out the Browns here, yes, despite how bad they played last year in terms of record, they had one of the most formidable and difficult defenses to play week in and week out. They applied a lot of pressure. They wouldn't let you throw the ball. They wouldn't let you run the ball. One of the most suffocating defensive units to not make the playoffs last year, and every team will tell you Cleveland was a nightmare. Now, even despite this nightmare, guys like Achane found success. Here he's going to get a run off to the left side for 46 yards, get taken out by Tyson Campbell here, but just kind of take a good look at where this goes. Okay, first off, the formation. You see they got 5 on the line. Then you got a 2 offline, but also 1 like kind of, I want to say tight. And then you have this one going wide here, but it's really more of the slot look. 4 on the line on the defensive side. We got 1 guy up top. So essentially you've got your 1 guy here. You've got 4 here. This is going to be an outside approach. He's going to want to get in here. He's probably going to wedge in. And then we have this guy probably going to do the same deal. And based off this guy's just going to occupy. He's just going to stand here and wait and pick up where he has to. There may be some motions involved. This is one of the big ones here. Just keep an eye on where the fullback goes mainly. But this is our guy that's going to take the football. We got a 1 high look. They all know it's going to be a run. It's just about where is he going to run it. So here goes 89. He's in motion. Look at the way they shift. They're shifting assignments. It's basically a zone. Now he's going to line up. Now when he snaps this ball, they're going to run to the left. They basically added extra lead blockers on the left side off that motion. And here they go. 89 is going to lock in. Hits the main guy. Now the fullback's going to come in and take out this D lineman. So this center. So what looks to be is that this right guard can go up and go pick up the linebackers in the second level, while the left guard is going to climb up and take his guy. Here comes the handoff. He's going to fly through. Good adjustments, following suit, keeping strong, follows through his gap, shakes off a tackle, and he's off to the races. Now, Achane's a very fast guy, but give the defensive back some credit. They were able to keep up with him there and take him out of bounds after about a 46-yard gain, keep him from scoring. But here it is from the end zone view of what I was talking about. Again, Ingold started there. They motioned him in, so it looks like it's going to be a strong left look, although they had extra guys on the right. But then here comes 89. He's going to motion across. There he goes, picks up the block here. There's his shoulder in here. You got this guy on the outside. 30 is going to come across, take out the D lineman while 69 shoots up. Takes the hit there. Okay, 55's holding. Hit made here. You see where the opening is starting to show up here. It's showing up right here in this box. 55 is carrying the D lineman with him towards the play, which is going to box out the linebacker from making a play here. Now, Achane is going to use his speed to try and break through, keep following to this left line. So there he goes. He puts his hand on the back here to kind of help give him an extra push for some extra separation. And he's going to fly between this little wedge here and just follow this track through, and he's going to squeeze right by. Yeah, they're off the blocks, but it's too late. 17 tries to wrap him, can't do it. Now he's off to the races. And 7's able to catch him, luckily. But Achane with the breakaway speed following his blocks. It's the vision again. Once again, all going strong to his left side, taking the guys out of the play. But it's the confidence of Achane on this run. He sells it a little bit here. He dives inside. Okay, now he can keep running, pulling out left. Keep climbing left. Sticks his arm out to give him a little extra leverage to push forward. And now he's going to trust himself to go forward, and he doesn't waver once. Confident in his runs. We want to see more of that from these running backs. And that's what makes Achane, again, another tough player, because tough running is very commendable and respectable in this league. We want running backs that run with confidence, that play with confidence. He's one of those players. It's what I like a lot about him. And it's one of my favorite traits about a guy like Achane. Now, here's an interesting play here. We got 5 on the line. We've got, looks to be a tight end here, another receiver to his right, and then we have Tyreek on the outside. We have Waddle here on the opposite by himself. He's working one-on-one. It looks like this is going to be a man coverage situation here between these two. Same deal here. They're playing up. This is going to be a kind of a press situation. But the difference is with this receiver, he's got a little bit of an edge to break out. I think he's giving him this guy's giving him a little bit of room to kind of break around him and work on the outside of his hip, which is interesting. Now this guy's working in line. Now the interesting part about this play is count the defenders. We have a total of 4 on the line. We have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, we have 2 outside guys. We have an extra defensive back here. And then we have these guys. So we're in a nickel look. We have a 2 high look. Does it rotate? Does it change? Where does it go from here? Now keep in mind, Moser's going to come out of the backfield. They're going to send 4 coming through. Mostert's kind of the dump option. Tua's reading the left. Waddle's not going to get the beat here, but the reason why he's going to take Mostert is because look at where the linebacker's going. He's going this way. He's trying to offer a little support with the receiver here, and this linebacker is focused on the tight end right here, which means this whole open side of the field is about to open up really fast, and then these two are going to have to close in and take him out so he doesn't get a massive gain. Now, this is an interesting situation because this is going to result in a touchdown here, but here he goes right into this window. Tua sees it. He's going to jump on it because he's breaking in, takes it. Now, when I talk about the actual route running, look at how crisp the route is here coming out of the backfield. He's going to start flat. He's just going to round it up, and then dig his heel in, and then go. Break across the field. He does. I know it's a little rounded. It's not too sharp, but it's enough for him to get into the soft zone that is available, and he just takes it right up the middle of the field here. Just look at how he beats out the linebackers and beats out everyone else on this play. And the toughness. Did I mention the toughness of him on this play? That's tough. Okay? You beat 14. He's going to dive. He's going to miss. But then you have the safety trying to take you out here. He's going to spin you around. The next guy's going to try to hit you, but he doesn't wrap. He just throws a hit, and you fall into the end zone. Now, from the end zone from the end zone view, this is what that kind of play looks like. Spillane was the guy who ends up being in coverage here to pick this up. See how he goes out? He is playing one-on-one with Achane here, but he has to keep an eye on what's going on to his right. To his right. But here comes Achane digging it in, and boom, right there. Takes it. Now he's going to climb. Go, go, go. Misses the tackle. Wrap. Now watch how Ellis approaches this. Just hits him. Does not wrap. He's not able to wrap him. And I think I mentioned the name Mostert earlier. I did mean Achane, but you see what I mean. Digging in. Now there's your sharpness. He's going flatter. And now he's going to turn it up quick, take the right angle. Miss. A decent wrap attempt, but his momentum carried him too far. He should have got more square on that and just basically try to get him down straight flat around the 3 or 2. You got to throw your body into him, wrap, but you cannot just completely leave your feet. You got to hit him. You got to make sure you get him around the legs or hips and just wrap and just drop. That's all you have to do. And he spins, and Ellis just kind of hits him. He doesn't wrap, and he just goes in. And it's a big trait that I see that's a big flaw in a lot of linebackers and defenders today is because they're being taught to just hit. And see how he just throws a shoulder? I don't know what the effort is, thinking that you could throw a shoulder while he's mid-spin and expect to take him down, but that's just terrible. That's just a terrible attempt, and I'm sure the coach has ripped him for that. But he ends up getting in the end zone here, and that's enough for Miami to get a touchdown, 29 yards. It's not only seeing Achane as a running back having that ability to be not only a speedster and elusive, but also as a receiving option. You can roll him out of the backfield, run him in the slot, run him in some kind of alignment as an extra receiver, and he'll be able to run the routes for you. This is also a guy you can trust with his hands, who has breakaway speed that's hard to take down. It's another weapon. It's basically having another slot receiver at your disposal. And beyond that, this guy has incredible vision, good nose for football, and he knows how to take contact and use it to his advantage. When they throw weight at him, he's able to use that weight against them and keep climbing and keep moving. Athletes that have that ability will have a long life in the NFL. Plain and simple. So I do want to say here, I do know that guy like Achane is not the most attractive prospect and not the most attractive running back to watch. But this is a guy that you watch week in, week out. You know he's going to have big plays. You know he's going to have big moments. And if you're a big user of fantasy football, he's going to get you points. And that's the reason why Achane got this contract. Achane is very productive, and he's willing to do anything that is asked of him. A player like that comes once in a lifetime. You need to take that advantage when you get that opportunity. So in this case, keeping him long-term with Malik Willis is in the best interest of the team for the future. And now we reach the end of the show here. And the end of the show, we always do our feel-good moment from the weekend. And I think we have to kind of give some credit here. We got to talk about the scheduled release videos. Now, of course, I did already post my reviews of them, and I will be live reacting to all of them again on Twitch tomorrow. But what I want to say very quickly here is it's so hard to pick a favorite. And I would show you my favorite video right now, my actual favorite from the Chargers, but it's a 6-minute video. Or am I really going to post a 6-minute video here? No. What I am going to do is I'm going to show you a couple clips from one of my favorite videos that was done and a couple others that really stood out to me. So first off, I want to show you a clip from the Atlanta Falcons who had a very unique take on a classic. If you were a kid growing up, you missed these commercials a lot, and the Atlanta Falcons recreated it. Here is their take on the old SportsCenter commercials to announce their 2026 schedule.
Here at the Atlanta Falcons, there's an art to corporate life. With the new staff in place, we're constantly learning and adjusting how to get things done.
It's incredible having Matt Ryan as president of football around here. It's really, truly incredible. Now, he's learning that it's not as intense around here as it is in the game.
And that's how we'll roll things out this year. With that, I'll pass it over to Matt Ryan.
Thanks, Ian. All right, we are, get fucking set! Yeah, thanks for joining us, fellas. All right.
Oh, I love it. I love this kind of stuff. You see, throwing back to... When you throw back to nostalgia, there is no way to fail. I feel like when you hit the nostalgia point of things, you can't fail. But then you get teams who also take a different approach, and a very respectable approach that if you are a fan who just wants to be entertained, you won't like it. But if you are someone like me who really does enjoy unique content where it's kind of focused on, like, hey, give me a different take. Show me something different. You get a team like Detroit. And Detroit, of course, I ended up grading low because it doesn't meet my criteria of what I look for in a video for entertainment purposes. But they had a different purpose for their video. This purpose was not to entertain. It was not to do any kind of silly gimmicks. The point was, we got to get back to business. And that's why I love this next video.
Going into this offseason, he'll look at the fact that he lost a lot of key players.
Can they get back to being the most physical team in football?
The pendulum swing can go very quickly.
Can this defense stay healthy?
They have a lot of big decisions to make as a franchise.
As you look at the Lions Super Bowl window, is it closed based on what we saw this year?
I think the Super Bowl window's closed.
I don't know the Lions Super Bowl. Detroit Lions. I'm gonna be honest, the window might be
Lions.
Lions were Detroit Lions.
This to me is also perfect. And it's different because the reason why it's different is because this isn't like a goal to entertain. It's not objective to get the fans to laugh. Oh my gosh, it's so funny what they did. Look at the little joke there. Look at the roast there. No. They're tired of the jokes. They want to win. They didn't have a good year last year. They underperformed what was expected of them. And now they have to get back up the hill. So they're saying, we don't care about this. We're all about business. Let's get to work. And the fans in the comments will tell you, the Lions fans, this is a perfect video. This is what we wanted. No jokes, just strictly business. And it's completely different from what every other team has done. No other team played a serious tone like the Lions did. They were like, we don't care what you guys are doing. We want to win. And I always respect that too. And I think I'm going to give one more video its flowers because there's always so many you could choose from. I could go with the Seahawks, who did a Cologne parody. The Patriots put their guys on roller coasters. The Rams did like a food joke. And like there's so many other things. The Tyler Council of the Cowboys. But I want to give a little shout to one video that I think was a little bit like, I guess it was one of my more shocking ones because it's just random. And that's going to be what the Bills did. So let's take a look at what Buffalo did that was so different.
Okay, guys, let's get started here. Schedule release. It's finally time. Woo!
Seems normal.
I'll kick it off. Picture this. All right, we got a barbershop quartet who sings the schedule. Huh? I know some boys from Scarborough that I think will absolutely nail it. They're excellent.
That's
yes,
great.
This is a little niche, but this thing could go viral. That's just one idea.
It's not terrible.
No bad ideas. Let's send it around. What do you got?
Oh, no, I got one. Y'all remember the SportsCenter commercials?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine Billy the Buffalo
Falcons did it.
in the ticket office.
Tell me that's
Right. Tell me that's not funny.
Falcons did it, but
Classic.
I know I pitch this every year, but can we please do an anime schedule release video?
that's a reference to the Chargers who did it a few years ago.
Anime video.
Yeah, I get it.
A giant chrysalis.
Okay, well, I just came up with this last night, so it's not fully fleshed out yet. But you know, looks maxing? What if we did something similar to that, but it was schedule maxing?
Yeah.
Not fully fleshed out, but it could be something. It could go viral.
I get that.
Sounds like you're a good idea, Max.
Maybe we could work with Vince Carter. That way we can tap into the Canadian market.
Oh yeah, 100%. That could look really good.
Did you write mine down?
I'm sorry, what was it again? Something about Christmas?
A giant chrysalis.
What's a chrysalis? Ain't it for butterflies?
Well, it's when caterpillars transform into a butterfly, like a cocoon.
The real slimy joint.
They're actually quite beautiful.
Okay. I wrote it down. All right, who's next?
Represents a time of change. It's high concept.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's like symbolic.
This would be the perfect year for a giant chrysalis.
Okay.
It's
let's
just
not get
so
ahead of
random.
ourselves here. PJ, what was that idea you were telling me about yesterday? I thought that was pretty solid.
I'm going to say what we're all thinking. A giant chrysalis.
And everybody is locked in on the giant chrysalis. So what do? Yeah, you already know. So they went with the guy's idea.
The Texans, then Detroit at home. Chargers passing LA Rams, Raiders on the road. Then we have the bye week, and on to Baltimore. Vikings, Jets, and Finns and Chiefs, Patriots once more. Next we play the Packers, then we face the Bears. Broncos, Dolphins, and the Jets. Schedule is here.
And it's not that I find it funny. I want it to be known. Like, I don't find it funny. What makes it that I laugh is that it's so absurd. Like, it's genuinely an absurd idea. Like, going into this video, if you thought by the end of it that you were going to see a barbershop quartet, then we play the Texans, and it's mixed in with a giant chrysalis spinning, obviously, on a rotor to symbolize a time of change. Who would have guessed it? Also, a slimy one at that. Like, there's so much tied to that I really, it became one of my personal favorites because you didn't expect it, but like, it was in a good way. Like, it was a surprise. And I'll take a surprise all day. It's just, I didn't expect that surprise. So for me, it was a lot higher on my rankings of when I did my videos, just because like, I felt like this video was different. It was unique. And so I give a lot of credit to the Bills creative team on that. It made it more creative with that ending. But yeah, it was personal favorite of mine because like you just see the most outlandish stuff get proposed, and you just see Josh Allen go, yeah, let's do a chrysalis. A giant chrysalis. That's it. Just giant chrysalis. Gosh, man, I love it when football gets creative and when football has fun. And these videos were more fun than you would think. If you haven't seen any of the other videos yet, I would recommend you check out just a few of them. The Buccaneers did a parody on Baywatch. The Panthers just blew stuff up for fun. The Vikings and the Rams each did a parody on food related to like the teams they were facing. The Chargers obviously knock it out of the park. They did a Halo theme. And I think I want to give also credit to the Raiders. Raiders did a Step Brothers theme. Amazing. The Packers got the animators of Robot Chicken to create like a whole Packers sketch with Tom Grossi, the YouTuber, on it as well. And I think the only one I can mention is the Giants. The Giants did Pictionary in the streets of guessing what teams they're playing with the fans, with Jameis Winston drawing the painting, drawing the pictures. Absolutely perfect perfect casting, perfect planning. I loved it. So if you haven't seen those, check those specific videos out if you want to get really entertained. I loved every single one of those. And also, you can watch the full Falcons video. There's so much more to it. It's like 6 minutes worth of just a compilation of them doing Sports Center parody. You can do that too. It's really, really good. But as for us, that's going to be the end of our show. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you for being here. And if you haven't already, please consider liking, following, and subscribing to all of our channels, specifically on the YouTube at The Brian Mansell Show and on our Spotify list here. We are live on Spotify and YouTube every Monday and Friday with a new episode covering the football world. Thank you all so much. We will be back again, hopefully, again, fingers crossed on Friday. I keep saying Friday. Things come up. I can't do Fridays. At this rate, we might just do Mondays moving forward, but we're going to try again for Friday. If we can't do it this week, I will then see you all on next Monday. But keep an eye out also on the YouTube channel. I'm going to be posting some more breakdown videos of some tape work. So this way you guys get a little bit more than just the standard reaction video or just the podcast episodes. I think y'all want a little bit more than that of the breakdown. So we're going to do that as well. Once again, thank y'all for tuning in. We will see you all very soon. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.